This is my third month in developing a Vulkan game engine, and in this video I want to talk about how we now have gizmos to edit an object's transform. We also have MSAA as our first anti-aliasing solution, and I also wish to talk about how I developed a standalone command line tool that provides useful offline utilities. Firstly, let's talk about gizmos. This is the first step towards a functional editor. Last month, I implemented mouse picking and object outlining, but I couldn't modify the transform because I had no gizmos. So I went on GitHub to try and find some solutions. I stumbled upon the im3D codebase. It is a pretty small immediate mode gizmo library. I read the source code and implemented my own retained mode version of a gizmo library. And I used Blender to make the axis mesh. I embedded the mesh vertices directly into the application and rendered the three axes with unique IDs so I can drag them around in the viewport. So as you can see, we now have gizmos for translation, rotation, and scaling. For translation, we can translate an object along an axis or translate it along a plane on the XZ plane, for example. And for scale, we can do scaling on an axis. Usually there's a uniform scale option in the middle, but I'll implement that later. And for rotation, we can of course perform the rotation around the three axes. The origin isn't quite right. I should set the origin to the mesh center. Right after implementing the gizmos, you may have noticed that we have some jagged pixels on diagonal lines. This is called aliasing, and we need some sort of anti-aliasing solution. The one I have for you today is called multi-sample anti-aliasing, or just MSAA for short. MSAA works by rendering to intermediate images that have a higher sample count before resolving to the final image. MSAA is a hardware algorithm in the sense that it is performed completely on the GPU and that I cannot write any shader to modify its behavior. This also implies that for older GPUs that do not support MSAA, we will have to fall back to using other software AA solutions, such as the fast approximate anti-aliasing or temporal anti-aliasing. The last thing I wish to cover here is the command line utility. I call this the builder. It contains some standalone features that isn't really required for shipping a game, but may be useful for debugging and baking. For example, there is an option that cuts the environment map into 6 cube map faces, and another option that runs all the regression tests for me. Each test suite is a standalone executable that I can run inside Visual Studio, but it's also nice to have a command line tool that runs all the tests for me. So that's about it for this month. We are actually getting really close to having an editor. I'm already working on a small ECS module, and the gizmos in these videos are actually editing the transform component, and the mesh component is rendered using the positions and rotations from the transform component. I still have 1 month to go before starting my master's degree in computer science, after which I will be much busier. So I really hope I can get the editor up and running soon. Anyways, if you are interested in game engine implementation and computer graphics in C++, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next month. Bye bye.